Hello, everybody. Hello, Ashes. Welcome to the Jankyard. I am excited to have you. I am the treatment, and we're here tonight, to do episode 2 of what I have now officially dubbed as Schmo2Pro, a mini-series that is optimistically aimed at improving your play from intermediate level, so you already know the game, to a higher level of play. And I am tonight joined by the arguably best player in the world of Ashes, Carl Diaz. I'll bring him over in a second, which is very exciting. And we're going to be covering the 10 decks that we selected last week. I'm interested to see what Carl has to say about the decks and which ones he wants me to play. And we'll also look at the fan favorite based off of the survey that I had posted. And then we'll just sort of jump into picking Carl's brain on deck building, how he approaches it, what he would change and why in some of the decks, and other decisions. And so if you are in the chat, as I see Fred and Shadowfire and Charlotte are, then please, I can't come up with all the questions myself, so let me know, let Fred know, or let Carl know if you have any questions, and we can sort of do this discussion together. So I'm just going to bring him in, the deck builder of 2022, the deck builder of the year. I just have to wait until he stops picking his nose, but then it should be good. There we go. Carl, you are in.
Hello,
I think
everyone.
your audio is live.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So we are, this is cool. This is the first time that we have ever even really done a video chat together, which is cool.
I think I've called you on accident countless times.
Yeah, pocket dials.
That's nearly everyone else in the community, so I don't know if we could count that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't really talk about Ashes, so I guess, yeah. Fred is saying, hey, Carl, this is cool. I'm very excited for this because, I mean, one, selfishly, I'm looking to improve my own gameplay. And two, I am genuinely hoping, as I mentioned last week, to be able to provide some sort of resource for people who are looking to improve their gameplay, because there's just so much based off of learning how to play Ashes and a broad stroke of getting into the game. And even we do have a lot of stuff on initial deck building, but we don't have much tailored towards the competitive end. And so that's where I hope we can bridge the gap over the course of the next, well, realistically, month or two, because you're probably going to be on every 2 weeks-ish, depending on your schedule, right?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. 2 weeks is ideal. I think every 2 weeks off, so I don't have to worry about taking work. But this is pretty cool. Living the dream.
Yeah.
In Ashes, got my dog and wife sleeping right here next to me. This is the dream.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And before we get right to it, I would be remiss, because my wife asked me to point out the background that she worked on last week when she saw the stream. She said, no, you have to have, your Ashes, I guess, paraphernalia on the shelf. So she got all the boxes, the deluxe boxes, all my other stuff, and she set up the whole thing. So at least it would look cool. So thank you to my wife, Allie. And I'm just going to switch us over to have Ashes up on screen. There we go. Where do you want to start? Because, I mean, obviously I have the 10 decks and we can get started there. Is there any preamble or any advice you want to share before we start?
We can just dive in.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Yeah, just dive in.
Okay. So I published all the lists last week, and so they're still currently on the first page until Red King does
All up on hashtag right now. I'm on your account.
Okay. Yeah. Until they do a mass upload of decks, they're here, and I guess we'll just start at the top, right? Which the first one is a Herald list, Tame the Beast, and it's got Lightbringer, Salamander Monk, Steadfast Guardian, Winged Linus. So it's an overloaded spell board. I do think that this was originally built pre-errata, so that might factor into any edits or considerations. And then we've got one of my favorite units, Beast Tamer, Master Vampire, Raptor Herder, Sonic, and a single Light Swordsman. And then we've got a couple spicy cards in here that you don't see very often. Exhortation is in there, Adrenaline Rush, Rally the Troops, and then two Meteors, Heal, Seeds of Aggression, Golden Veil, Sympathy Pain, and Consume Soul. Yes, Fred. She she doesn't mind me doxing her, so yes, I did reveal her name. And who knows, maybe one day she will be a guest on the Jankyard. All right, Carl is moving locations.
Because my dog was like snoring really loud, so I didn't want that to be on camera. But yeah, I'm looking at the list right now.
So first thoughts.
Yeah, so first thoughts is right. I'm trying to see where you're trying to win. It looks like it's a Sonic control with a Wing Lioness backing it up.
Okay, well, you've already said the word control, so I don't know if we, based on today's discussion.
Oh, right. So I haven't been looking at the strategy section of the Discord at all lately.
Maybe we just cancel the whole thing. We go through all of Ashes Live and just label each deck as aggro or control or tempo and where they fit on the spectrum.
I've read that before committing a Ashes felony here of
Yeah.
saying control. No, it's a pretty cool deck. The exhortation's kind of cute. How is it trying to win? I'm trying to see that.
So
Is it just trying to outlast and then get maybe a Q exhortation swing?
Yeah. So it is definitely more of that value trading control type of Herald list where it's all about. I mean, there's obviously the Steadfast and the Beast Tamer to really hold down the fort, and then you have ways of pressuring even just guard with Sonic, and hoping that at some point you can either adrenaline rush one of the knights for a few extra points or do an exhortation play. So it's definitely, as I guess, pure swing. There's three sympathy pain, but really there's not a ton of reach in burn, and there's definitely not a lot of mill. So that is sort of a more pure swing control deck.
So I'm also looking at the other hero that's pulled up. So I'm looking at you have 3x consume soul in both. Is that kind of an automatic thing?
No. I mean, almost all Phoenixborn I will include, one of, at least, depending on what it is. But if we're talking action spells, Consume Soul in this case, I don't know. I think honestly I was running into, probably at the time, a lot of situations where the extra heal just let me go that longer game to play it out. And also because it is a control deck and, like I said, made pre-errata, the ability for Salamander Monk to swing once, get a Consume Soul off, and then immediately have your mark back for something bigger.
It was, yeah, pre-errata, I guess makes sense. Because I'm looking at this and I guess your Salamander Monk attacking is a thing, and your Sonic. You have your Master Vampires and Wing Linus are typically already having stock, so your Consume Soul basically turns into a damage spell almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a damage and heal spell. It's not as much of a stock thing. Then I'm looking at the Seeds of Aggression. Typically, when I try to run Seeds of Aggression, I like to have a good sack outlet. I don't think you're going to be having an issue with board clog. You have 7 board, and your Linus would hopefully trade. Salamander Monk might be a cut. Probably, I think, because I don't know if you're gonna need more defense when you have the steadfast. So, I think I would go crescendo over seeds, or
Hmm.
even like running, like maybe going a little bit more on the sympathy side and having River's Gold.
Okay. Yep.
Are we
So this is a question that
is
came up from the chat. Shadowfire was asking, just I guess broad strokes, why, like for advice, why would you ever choose to do an overloaded spell board? And thoughts between either doing it or just not doing it, because he personally has never been a big fan. And we talked about it on what was it, on the other night when we were streaming Brian's game. There tends to be, like these days, not many overloaded spell boards, whereas definitely during the shuffle bus era, I think it was a lot of overloaded boards because of mind games, but also the ability to flex to your opponent because you could see what they were playing. Oh, can't hear you, Carl. I think your audio
I'm
is.
sorry.
There we go.
Okay, so flexing is a bigger thing than mind games, at least for me. When I'm thinking clock spell boards, it's really when, let's say you have two summon spells, one's going to be more useless than the other, or you have a flex, utility spell such as Guild Link, and you see your opponent not going to attack, and you go run something else. Um, so, like, example that's coming right to mind of the one I just recently built with the overclock spell board was the Fiona I posted in Discord, where
Right.
it has a Gilder and it has a Bastion Badger.
Oh man, Carl, your audio cut out again for some reason. Sort of.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. There we go.
So, um, what I was saying about with Badger and like something like Gilder is you would see those probably fighting for the same spot a lot. Where Gilder might come up a lot against Swarm, and Badger a lot against beefier picks that you're suspecting.
Okay.
They're both being Charm, both might fight for the same spot. They're both unit guard. Um, Either one's a super aggressive unit, unless you throw a Charm down a unit. But it's really when you're having multiple summons fighting for the same spot, or if you have a utility spell that is not always going to be a first five. Another one that is a popular thing to overclock is something like Salamander, not Salamander, Seafoam Snapper. You could see that as a something that overclocks a lot because you could think of that as a blood chains, right? But instead of exhausting, you get a unit. So you could discard one of your ready spells that you're not using anymore, and then you could throw a snapper on it, and then it's like a unit kind of style of blood chains, right? Um, that is something I've seen Brian do a lot, and I really have started to copy that a bit. Um, I have in my Rowan, I overclocked it with sometimes with Mirror Spirit, because you could draw in multiple copies and then get the focus going, but you might not want one Mirror Spirit round one. There's a bunch of reasons, but usually it's two summons fighting for the same spot.
Do you ever do something, um like I don't know how often I've seen it, where you overclock the spell board? Well, I mean, I guess Frostbite is the classic example. Basically, you're overclocking with something that you intend to replace one of your spell board slots mid to late game.
I
Oh,
mentioned.
yeah.
So snapper, I could replace something and then throw a snapper down, and a snapper, like you could build up your boards round one, two, maybe three, then throw a snapper down, and not have to worry about the rest. The clog once you're a little bit ahead, right? Because like you may notice in some games where you're like far ahead, you can't really attack because there might be instances where you can't attack face because then your opponent has initiative to attack face or attack your units without them countering. You can't attack units because you're ahead, so your opponent can do that. So Snapper kind of gets you out of that bind. Frostbite used to be super popular that way. It's not anymore. I think it's just because of competition with other readies. Um, That yeah.
Do you think, just as a tangent, do you think Snakebite is going to sort of take that role of overload and swap it in mid game, or do you think it's
No,
more of a no?
maybe I see Snakebite. It's as a non first five ready spell where you first five three readies and you have a four slot, where you first five four readies and have a fifth slot, where you could just throw that down as a free charm power and get a free, or yeah, just throw it down as a free charm power with like upside.
Okay,
Maybe it has upside as a damage at the end game, but maybe.
okay,
I haven't really thought of that too much because I think Dove and Abundance has that covered mostly, and it's really hard to have multiple non-summon ready spells. Um, and when it's late game and you're a mill player, you're really trying to stay on board. So we'll see, but I think that's going to be mostly a spell. I don't see think we're going to see it much at all on three spell board Phoenixborn. I think we'll see it a lot in four or five, where you're only using three or four of the slots.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
I,
agree. I don't see it as a starter card. Well, there, there's all the tricks you can pull out with Essence Druid or otherwise with the recursion. And who knows? Maybe one of those will actually be strong. But yeah, I get your point. Okay, so in terms of this list is, I mean, we don't have to talk about what your top three are right now, but when, like, do you think this is a good list or a bad list? Because that's one of the hard things in evaluating, I think, for a lot of people, is you look at all the lists on Ashes Live and you're like, sometimes I can understand what it does, but I don't even know if it's good. Where would you, like, if you had to give a grade as a teacher, what would you say this is?
um, I think it's a solid list. Um, I what I'm looking at, I think some of these lists you have an extra fourth die of a one off that you may not need. I like the Master Vampire in here as a stock, but that looks like your only ceremonial card. Um, I guess Adrenaline Rush can be.
Adrenaline Rush,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so what I would do is probably cut the Master Vampires as much as it might suck to have extra stock and like add a fourth sympathy or add a fourth divine for Shepherd of Lost Souls and
Mm-hmm.
really like solidify your dice pool, especially with this deck probably going long, as many heroes do. Having that, you know, three dice pool would be nice. But I think it's a solid list. I'll give it a B.
Okay. Yeah, one thing that I was wondering in your own deck building is, because I've only done this a few times. I experiment with different approaches to deck building, but like I pick just whatever cards I think are part of the core plan and I make them all three ofs, and then sort of after that trim down and see what I need one ofs for specific solutions. Do you do that, or do you start where you're like, I only want one of these and maybe I'll bump it up like afterwards? Like, I want one Sonic, and then if I feel the dice fit for it, it goes up to three.
I usually do start with three, but it depends on the card. So like if you're looking at something like this meteor as a even as a two, it's risky because with it strains your divine pool, and then if you draw two in a round, that's a really bad round, right?
Yeah.
So I think of cards that I want, but like cards I really don't want multiples of, because that could like you really don't want to design a deck where you're gonna have a bad round two draw. So
Mm-hmm.
if you could think of ways you're gonna have a really bad round two draw, I try to avoid that. So yeah, so that's why I think of starting with three of the main pieces and then making sure you avoid a round two draw is where I start.
I guess too, if I did, swap in um Shepherd instead of the Master Vampire, and then give myself an extra Divine. That also works then, at least for playing 2 meteors if it was ever necessary. And at least it doesn't.
So
It takes the pressure off of things.
you get the 2 meters in. Also, what you can do if you really want the stock, you could just go 3x like Wing Linus, and then have your extra Divine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that because then you're in heavy and Divine. 3 Wing Linus have 4x conjuration. It's like drawing into an ally that actually. I mean, it's a slow ally, but it's an ally that buys you a main action.
Right.
That you can just drop when you need it, and that kind of gives you, if this is a long game, right, which it might be, it looks like it's going to be a long game, those extra summons do actually help in the long run. But like if I have a 1x die, it's usually for like a play cost and Golden Veil. That's a big one. Or like, I don't know if a 1x die for a very specific ally is something I usually do.
Killer said he's a big fan of 3x Wing Linus, and that was actually, I believe, part of the Herald that we had built together for one of the pods. It's also a basic sync, which is good, at least as far as Linus specifically is concerned.
The more stock you have, like, is like, if you're going all in on stock, I guess having 3x is not a bad idea because like the more stock you have, the less chance you have to take advantage of their guard being broke. So
Right.
like their one guard is just, they could just guard the one unit that you aren't stalking with, and then they're good. Well, not they're good because they're stalking everything else, but I guess that gives you a more consistent stalk, which makes sense why you have Master Vampire. But
Yeah,
I would go with a 4th Divine or even a 4th Sympathy, so you could throw in River's Cold. Either way.
right. All right, let's move on to the next list, which is also a Herald, but I guess, well, there's similarities. Obviously, I had built this definitely around a theme of ignoring guards as much as possible, hence the title Guards Be Damned. So it really came with, the Lioness, the Master Vampire, also putting in, interestingly, both Guilt Link and Chant of Transfusion. It's also in Herald, naturally. And then some units that really pressure guard, like Sonic and Hammer Knight. Thoughts? Let's go there.
This is one of my favorite decks you ever built. I think it's awesome. I lost to it. I think it's a really sick deck, but there's a few things I might add. One, my advice when playing Guilt Link is this is one of the best combos with Anchornaut you could have. You got the basic sync. It could take out a 1 life unit, and you don't have to worry about board clog, because you could Guilt Link it away, and you also don't really have to worry about not having a unit to Guilt Link, right? Because that's what's scary here is if you have Guilt Link, round 1 is amazing because they can't get out of the Ritualist plus Old Salt play, and Guilt Link adds even more value to that. It's a really sick round 1 play. But let's say you are getting low on board, and then Guilt Link would be dead. Anchornaut can really help there, and I might just replace that nature die, take out the Nature's Wraths, add Anchornaut, maybe even take out the Hammer Knight, go up on a Shepherd, Sonic. Yeah, getting rid of that extra die might help. Then you can have an extra of the other dice, and Anchornaut can take care of the ping that the Nature's Wrath does, and you have a Guilt Link target, so you don't have to worry about not having a Guilt Link target, and it kind of duels as not having to worry about board clog because Guilt Link.
Yeah, that's an interesting call. So this deck, which was the deck that beat your Holy Knight Jessa, I was so high on this deck. I had a really good run, and then I lost twice, and I think it was to Fallen both times. I think honestly to No Such Method both times, once in Phoenix League and once somewhere else, and I just caved in on the idea, and it started changing a ton just because I thought I had to have answers for so many things. I was curious. I was going to try and bring up the history to see how many times I've modified this just to try and like what the original idea was, because I don't think it had nature originally. No, it didn't. Unless you're watching the stream, you won't be able to see this, but it started
I have the
on
stream up.
just
I could change it.
okay. Yeah, it started on three divine, sympathy, and 4 ceremonial, and it was I guess it wasn't exactly lighter on allies. It was still 13 allies, but it was, I don't know, more of a pure idea. It also had Lightbringer as a flex. And then I was like, I can't play any of these decks without nature for Wrath. I think helps self clear, but also anything that went wide against the Knights was problematic. Like sort of, I don't know, Swarm Hope type of stuff, or Tristan. Opening against Tristan, I think I always had just a Wrath to go for that, but that's where this evolved. So anyway, it was something that I kept changing because of 2 losses, and Fallen definitely frustrating. I think I lost to Shadowfire. That was the other match on Fallen.
Yeah. So, like I said, you can't. This is gonna be a hard list to be Fallen with because Guilt Link just plays into Fallen's idea. Um, I mean, I don't think you're gonna. So I think we do is just accept that it has a bad Fallen matchup, and then maximize the other matchups, right?
Right.
I think the Fallen matchup's just going to be a bad one.
How often do you think about that? It actually just came up before we started streaming, or I guess a couple hours ago. Iron Cash, I believe it was asking about, in this context, not Fallen, but Blood Puppets. And he was saying, I keep hearing Blood Puppets are undervalued, underplayed, and there's some matches that I just lose too hard. And I immediately thought about what you had said, but how often do you think about matchups that you will lose and you don't ditch the deck idea, you just concede that if it comes up, then so be it. Otherwise, you have good matchups against the rest, and you're gonna stick with the core idea versus adding in all these one-ups for very specific things.
So there's times where I just completely ignore a matchup. This I don't want to come off as negative, but let's say if it's Fallen, if I have to build every deck for Fallen, then not every deck's gonna be built. But you can also, I mean, you could try to outplay the Fallen player and outplay the Fallen deck. It's hard, if you're at a disadvantage, but you could try to do it. But here's the other thing: is if you add a bunch of 1-ofs, unless it's a first 5 flex, like you're reducing your deck consistency to add a card that if it's not a first 5 card, you might not get any. Right. So that's kind of where I go. I think of sometimes first 5 flex, like if it's a first 5 flex, I'm 100% adding it. And if it fits the idea and it's not, if it fits the dice spread, like it's going in. If it's not a first 5 flex, I have to think about, like, is this hurting the consistency? Do I really need it? And if I really need it, then it might not be a 1-of, right? It might be a 2-of. And if I don't need it, maybe I don't have it at all anyways. It's a weird balance to run.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let me just
I think you can make this Guilt Link deck super strong and just not care about Fallen.
Okay.
Or
let's if we do end up picking it, and I'm not saying we are, but if we do, then we'll make edits to it. What is your I want to call you the professor. What's the Carl ranking on this, or rating, I should say?
Oh yeah, I'll give this a A-. It's a super strong deck. I like it.
All right. Let's take a look, because we got 10 decks to look through and then do some edits. So Ice Bath, the Tristan list for Shadowfire, just so he knows, we've got Frostback Bear, Vampire Bat Swarm as the spell board, and then it's got some Fire Archers, a Hammer Knight, an Ironworker, 2 Old Salts, 2 Herders, a Realm Walker. So it mixes in a Realm of the Absurd start where it has hunting weapons, but also a root armor flex depending on what you're facing. And then Clashing Tempers, just because that's super good card. A single Fester, Mist Typhoon, some Molten Gold, Tsunami Shot naturally, some Double Downs, which are I don't know. I haven't played with them a lot because I never played the creeper stuff, but now that Frostfrog is here, I love them. Final Cries, a single ice trap as a flex, a standstill, and a widows. So this is a deck actually that Fred and I have been building together, and I think it's really strong.
It's really strong. Yeah. This is a great deck. I yeah. So, are you flexing this heavily? Like, is it like a swarm option, and then like you have a like Realm Walker hunting weapons option? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, the so generally I do run the books, all of them. I think in almost every match, and then the question comes down to whether I want to start Realm Walker and hunting weapons, or whether I want to go with the double down play, because Frostfrog can be so annoying. So in that case, I'm judging as to whether I think I'm facing more of a swarm or weenie deck that I can exhaust the heck out of, or if I think that they have a lot of ping. And that's basically, those are the two gambits, but you could easily flex into a Hammer Knight or something else. This has a lot of choices, and so I think it's one of the decks that, even though it's very strong, it's also hugely dependent on your ability to correctly first five. But it does have a lot of finishing power with all of the burn as well. So it's not just a swing list. It's got a lot of ability to catch back up.
Is Root Armor a first five?
Well, so I think you could. I think if you're not at least expecting Lightbringer, then you have the ability to first five it with one of the knights, or just anything to sort of sit there. But it's also, in some matches, very rarely, but I've played Clue a few times, to sort of expect either like Excavate or some other crazy 3 damage play off the start. Root Armor really helps keep the Realm Walker alive, and you just sort of accept that you're not going to get the extra value of hunting weapons, but at least it's there, and then it sticks to the board for your round 2. Fred, who plays this more than I do because he plays like crazy. I don't have that much time with kids. He said he's been running it without Vampire Bats and using the Frostfrog book, not played in round 1, as bait to hide the Realm Walker play. So he would do something like Tsunami, Bear, Realm Walker hunting weapons, and then summon Frostfrog. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of choices. Is my point.
Yeah, it's a cool deck. It's really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool deck.
What do you think? What do you think of these types of decks where you merge in sort of like almost two disparate ideas? So you have the Realm of the Absurd, but it's not a pure deck like that way, and then you also have the Vampire Bats and Raptor Herd, like the more swarmy aspect, but you also still have Frostback Bear. Like, this feels like a little bit of everything, but it does actually come together.
I think that's what you should be doing. If you have a Realm of Serve option, right? There's, like, you have so much deck space to flex it out. Because maybe I'm misreading, or maybe my memory's short on Realm of the Serve, but like, doesn't it dominate first 5 and round 2, and it doesn't really need all the cards it has in the deck to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to do it. And I think what I do when I make a deck that merges two things together is I almost try both things independently and then throw them together and see if they work. So I guess I have an example of I did this with the infuriated Dreadwraith deck, where it would win round 1, but then it had the dice spread and it could do a fallen flex where you could just open memories for a fallen and do a normal fallen game. Um, like when you go have a deck that dominates round one and it has extra slots, I don't think there's a reason why you shouldn't have a separate flex or a separate merging of it.
Mm-hmm.
It adds a lot to it. I think it's pretty cool.
The other example that I wasn't thinking of the infuriated wraiths, but the when you're like, I wonder if Koji Fallen plus Koji Creepers can actually be put in the same deck.
Worked really well.
Yeah.
And like it just it made the creep. I mean, you didn't get the thorn just going as much, but it gave you two attack options and that you could do for the bear, and if they destroy your creeper, then you throw some status tokens on and make thorns, because and then you have the normal fallen thing that everyone has trouble with. But yeah, it really worked really well. Like it wasn't like the most optimized of both, but there were some parts that came together that kind of complemented each other, and I think this ice bath does that, right? Because you have a vampire and frog opening that could both be magnified, and then you have your hunting weapons open as a big magnified target, and they complement each other pretty well. Um, Vampire bat was actually my first question looking at this, but
Mm.
um, I see it now. I could definitely see it now, just because, like in my experience, my I I usually run Vampire Bat with a really cheap spell board. Um, Having it with Bear is really expensive in later rounds if you don't win the round one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so I think the original idea didn't have bear at all. And when it ran into heavy pings or chain of transfusion decks, it suffered a bit because bats can be expensive, and if they have a lot, then there's almost no secondary board plan. You have to rely on drawing the allies. So I think that's why we swapped it. It obviously it could just be a flex, but at the end of the day, I mean, bats plus the frog are amazing magnified targets, so those work. And in a pinch, magnifying Frostback Bear to go over the top also does work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it all works well together. That's why I was asking so many questions at the start of this, is because I was trying to figure out what exactly is the first five, because I would assume it's not always bat, bear, frog, and then two cards, right? Because maybe it is, but that's kind of expensive. And then if you go bat, bear, frog, two cards, I think you're giving up a die for bat swarm. Maybe I think so, right? I don't think you get affect you have a die for swarm.
So I usually count bats as three off the top, just because I'm assuming I'm going to swarm once. So it's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can play. Yeah, either you're not going to magnify, or you gambit where you put the bear down and you don't play. Like it does cost you the tax, but you don't play it, or you don't swarm. There again, it's a little tricky sometimes to first five. If you're really trying to outmind game the other person. But
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I'm thinking. It's not like a standard three spell board first five, but because you're kind of taxing your first five there. But like what you said was what Fred did was kind of smart.
Your video for some reason is freezing, but otherwise, I still hear your audio. So
Sorry, I'm not in the best cam, so if it's free, I'm sorry.
that's okay. We still got the last frozen picture of you. Let's see. So Shadow says a lot of people don't think of the Magnify Bear Swing because he's gotten a few people with that combo, and Fred was saying that he got wrecked by Red King's Atrophy deck, which honestly I don't remember all his decks. But I think it was Turtle Guard and Gilder, so that makes it really annoying for the bats. But anyway, let's move on. Or what was your rating for this deck? Oh, I might have lost Carl.
Sorry, am I still here?
Yeah, no, I can hear your voice. Yeah.
Okay. It's hard for me to rate it. This is a really. I need to kind of see this in action.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I feel like I'm being really high on all of these, but without seeing it in action, I'll probably go with a B. But I don't want to like.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't say A without seeing it, and then a C is too low. I'll go there.
Sounds okay.
That's
We
fair.
got another Tristan deck, which is completely different than the other one. This is I don't even think it's a typical Tristan deck because most Tristans want either sympathy, well, or nature really for at the very least herder or fish or bats as we just saw. And this has none of it. This is illusion, time, divine. It's got Cloudburst Griffin and Linus, which don't are not magnified targets. So that's already interesting. It's got a Shadow Spirit, which is a target, but then it's the allies here that have the ability. So Realm Walker obviously is a target. Oh, now I did lose the feed. Carl, can you say something?
I hear.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, whatever. When your video comes back, at least your your voice is there. Crystal Archer, um, I believe Celestial is as well. That you double up the armor. Yeah, double up the armor and Standard Bearer, so you can really pump out some buffed attacks. Uh, and it doesn't really have any other plan B as far as mill or burn. It's very much more of a control deck with just some like basically trying to build up a massive units, keep them alive, keep them beefy, between Fate Reflection, Particle Shield, Mass Heal, even Crystal Armor, obviously, and then just really control the board unit wise. So I don't know what are your thoughts. This is my most. I stopped playing it, but this was like a 10-0 run, and then I stopped playing it for some reason.
Yes. I think I had it in Noah at one time, Leo at one time. These three colors are really strong, and I think you could swap the Phoenix Form pretty easily with them. It looks like you're just running Tristan for like maybe I'll get a big standard bearer hit, but I really want Tsunami Shot. Is
Yeah,
that kind of the right read?
there's enough tricks. Like Crystal Archer was one I thought was a really cool trick. Realm Walker,
Oh, it does 2 damage.
um, Realm Walker. I think I included it, and I originally misunderstood the interaction. I thought you could exhaust 2 units rather than placing two
Right.
exhaustion, but it honestly sometimes comes out better if you get the right target. And then yeah, the standard bear is kind of the trick. The Shadow Spirit adds the most minimal amount of spin, but it still works. There's so many other value targets that generally they don't even want to waste resources on the Shadow Spirit, so it's kind of there almost for free. But yeah, Tsunami Shot's the big win here.
So that's what I'm saying, and this is really smart. Actually, I like this. I haven't thought of this idea myself yet. Um, Going with the I want Tsunami Shot, like best card in the game, and then if I could use Magnify on for an extra damage on or an extra exhaustion, I'll do it. Like, or if I could use it on Shadow Spirit to in a clutch moment, I'll do it. Like, I don't need to use Magnify. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So this is really similar to a deck I had, like, and I was like, I had this, these three colors worked really well together, and I had the kind of similar idea, and I was swapping it between like Leo, and then I was swapping it between like Noah, and there was a few others I can't remember. There's I can't remember them all, but I had another color like this with Ceremonial too, where I was just swapping it with different Phoenix Borns. This was many months ago, and I was like, hey, how about we just use a Phoenix Born as the flex instead of the like cards? And I think Tristan might be one of the better ones to do it because you get Tsunami Shot and magnify when it's good. It's really really cool.
Actually, that brings up a point because it's something that I probably don't do enough of. I know it's something that Red King does I don't want to say exclusively, but he does it so much where he takes a good shell and will move it around to different Phoenixborn to try out what they bring, what they offer, and usually you're not changing more than a couple cards outside of the unique to fit the gameplay. How often is it something you do or you consider where you're like, this deck is actually pretty decent, but now I'm gonna move it around rather than changing the 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 cards in the deck itself? Oh, sorry, lost your audio.
Bet all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
all the time. Yeah, like you go through like I could find a cool combo and then I'm throwing it everywhere, or I could find like a really big deck show and I'm throwing it everywhere, and I'm seeing like where does it stick, where is it best, what do these Phoenix Form bring, what do these other cards bring, like just stick with the shell. I do that all the time. Um, a big one for me back in the day was when Tidal Crab came out. That's when I started going on my huge Mirror Spirit thing, where
Mm-hmm.
like the exhaust, like the zero token mirror spirits aren't dead anymore. They could become a new exhaustion token, and I was throwing that everywhere. I had a similar shell like this, and I was throwing it everywhere. So yeah, I do that stuff all the time. This is actually a deck when we were going back and talking about overclock spell boards. This is one where you can actually mess with an overclock spell board because you have Griffin Spirit Lioness. What you can do is you can go with a one die summon, say Lightbringer. That comes up. That's just coming to the top of my mind. And then you have a Gates Thrown opening where you have Griffin for 4, Shadows for 2. You have Lightbringer for say 2. Then you're at 8 dice with the Gates Thrown open. You're at 9. You have a 4th card. Throw in maybe Light Swordsman. That I love that as my 5th card on a Gates Thrown opening for a 3 spellboard Phoenixborn. And this might be a deck where you can flex out, have an overclock spellboard for a Gates Thrown open option.
Yeah, I think I would have to definitely switch the dice to lean a little heavier on divine for that for this specific deck.
Oh right, yeah, I see that.
But
Maybe
but
not.
anytime, yeah, anytime I'm
That's
in
something.
anytime I'm in illusion, I do think, is this something that I could add a single gates as an alternate first 5 option?
Yeah, yeah, same here. If you could have a Gates as an alternate, and then a deck can't deal with it, because that's a really tough. Like Gates is just a tough card to deal with. Um, you have to consider it, but I don't think there's another strong one die summon. Snapper doesn't really fit your deck well, but yeah, this is super strong. Um,
What's your thought on Shadow Spirit as a card, like in general as a summon, versus say something like Miss Spirit, which I've started. Well, I sort of really liked it for a while, and then I just forgot about it, and then I've started seeing it again in several matches because sometimes it's just really good to have two bodies. And personally, I found that Shadow Spirit 90% of the time dies before it does anything. But you have to almost inevitably met up for it. So it's like you're wasting a card just to get a unit that does nothing versus potentially a body or two on the board.
that can be another thing. You have both, and that can be another thing you flex out. If you see ceremonial and you're worried about old assault, Shadow Spirit is fine. I mean, Shadow Spirit's not a card you want to play. Otherwise, like I don't really mind losing the Shadow Spirit to a Frog Ping. But like I really don't want to lose it to an old assault,
Yeah.
right? So that could be a first 5 flex, but um, I mean, I like Shadow Spirit. I don't think it's a bad card, but I do see the value that Miss Spirit has over it in the current meta with Old Salt being everywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
That is an issue.
yeah,
Okay.
but this is yeah, it's a super cool deck. You have Mass Heal. Might not be a thing I would go, but I see it. Like you have low health. Um, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I think it's kind of cheeky anytime you do have divine in a night or two because you're getting the heal yourself, but you're also getting heal on units. And at least with Griffin and Linus, it's nice to keep them sticking around. Okay, so moving on to the Echo list. No soup for you. This is the full Mirror Spirit package. This one does have Mist Spirits, as I just mentioned, Seafoam Snapper, and then it has sort of, I guess, a little bit more Swarm. It's got the full suite of Raptor Herders. It's got 2 Realm Walkers and Flute Mage for those types of tricks, a single Shadow Guard, 2 Swifties, and then a ton of action spells in this case. And again, now we were just talking about Gates Thrown Open. That's what this has. And the whole idea around this was a lot of exhaustion tech. So there's 2 Steady Gazes, 2 Tidal Shifts, and then a lot of various removal options with 2 Shadows, Wave Crash, and some cheeky outmatch to buff or make use of the Mist Spirits in fights against tall stuff, as well as the strange copies. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Deck that you made of these lists. It may not be the best one. It's one of my favorite. I think the Guild Link is up there too, but it may not be the best one. But like, it's different, and I think it all works well together. The parts are coming. Yeah, I mean, it's well thought out. The parts all really work well together. It's super cool.
What would you change? Like, if it's not, quite perfect, but it's still your favorite, is that what would elevate this and why?
Strange copies, like having both strange copy and unmatched, is not something I would do. I mentioned strange copy as something that you want to use if you have something you want to copy on your own board. Because then, like, outside of that, outmatch is just purely better. Like, it doesn't save the unit from dying because it'll go, like, it doesn't recover the wounds it'll take. So even if the life goes up, it doesn't matter. The 4 attack is better. Strange copy is really neat if you have something that you want to copy of your own units. Outside of that, I would take outmatch every time, and I'm not a big fan of outmatch either. Yeah. But I would take it over strange copy in this particular deck. Swift Messenger. I'm trying to see. I kind of see the reasoning for that. I'm not usually a huge fan of more than 2 shadows, but I see it in this deck with all the exhaustion tech. It makes some sense here. Yeah, Wave Crash is really cool. I would add an Ocean's Gift. Or some kind of like extra status token package. I mentioned earlier, like, I don't like when my exhausted, like, not exhausted, but no token Mirror Spirits become dead on the board and there's nothing you could do with it. Like, I would like to have a Blood Chains on it, or like some way to sack it, or some way to throw an extra status on it. I guess your option is to move a exhaustion with Chaos Gravity.
Yeah, or using outmatch on it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that works too. Okay, yeah, never mind. That does work. Actually, outmatch is pretty cool with that. I might not. This might higher my evaluation of outmatch a tad bit. This is pretty cool.
There you go. I think I don't know if you had just recently ranked it under the 290s, but there we go.
Stop the ranking for the time being because the strategy thing is being overloaded with a separate discussion. But yeah, it's pretty low on my ranking.
And of course, Snapper in this list can clear out the Mist Spirits as well.
The Mirror Spirits? Yeah.
The Mirror Spirits, sorry. Yeah.
They can. Yeah, for sure. So that's not really much of a worry in this deck. The Flute Mage is a...
It's a cheeky one-up.
Are we trying to unexhaust either the Mirror Spirit or the Realm Walker? Just have it as a threat when it comes out? That makes sense.
Yeah, it's basically a one-of just in case you do have a really big Mirror Spirit, or if you do keep a Realm Walker, swinging twice in a round is so good.
Yeah, 100%. This is really cool. we're lacking any protection spells. I think you can go with a particle shield, maybe a fate reflection. You're in the colors.
Hmm.
Um, you don't have to. I think I would. I would go either a particle shield, maybe a fate reflection, either of those.
Yeah,
Um,
I like Fate Reflection. So swap out the Strange copy for Fate Reflection,
that's
basically.
probably what I would do there.
Yeah.
Wave crash is pretty neat here. I like that. You don't have much damage, but that could be that could be clutch. Yeah, it's a really cool list. But yeah, I would definitely add either a particle shield or a fate reflection. Probably fate reflection. I gotta think of the dice spread. So you're going. I think this dice spread works because
I
I'm
think
looking at the two X's. You got a shadow guard that won't really put much strain because the mist spirits. This all works.
yeah, it supports the Shadow Guard. I'm actually surprised that I didn't throw a Dreamlock in at some point, but anyway. Um I don't want to spend too much time on it, but what I guess we forgot the the rating, the professor's rating for the Tristan deck as well. So rate both of these.
Um, so the Tristan is a high one, like another B plus A minus. I would again try in different shells, see if the Tristan one is your favorite shell of it, because I think this is a deck you could move around in Phoenixborn, but tsunami saying no to tsunami shot is hard.
Yeah.
So that that's really cool. I haven't seen many Tristans like use magnify as like just an option. And I think this one does it very, very well.
Mm,
Um, the no soup for you, the power level is probably a low B, but the creativity is very high. Um, I really like how creative this deck is. I feel like all the pieces work well together. Um, yeah, I really I'm a big fan. I'm a big
okay.
fan of it.
I think
I
we've got.
don't think this is the strongest, but yeah, the creativity is really strong.
All right. Um so I think we got five left. One, two, three, four. Yeah, we got five left. So we'll speed it
What,
up a
what point?
little bit because we're at about
Oh,
an hour.
oh wow.
um yeah, I know. Well, it's really fun, honestly. Talking, I can understand how some streamers go on for hours and hours, especially picking your brain over these decks and what you like about them and why. So let's look at the this Noah, which is a collaboration between me and Shadowfire. We do those a lot, and it wasn't entirely supposed to be themed, but it definitely ends up with the three frost cards. Mainly, the frostbite was here to help add some burn and to close things out in case things do go long. But then frost frog bear, just sort of solid. There's again a realm of the absurd. So I guess some of these decks, definitely lately, I have included that more often than not in the color package because I do like illusion, time, and nature. So there's that option. There's raptor herders for swarm. The jungle forager here is something that I wanted to try to pull out any of the options like wallet, wilter, survivor, hunting weapons. Duelist, I always kind of like having one of if you're in time as an ally, just for facing various types of root armor in particular, but with the recent um, Red Rain set, it's just there's a lot of alterations going around, so it's helpful. Shadow Guard is always fun and cheeky, but it can also counter an opposing Realm Walker. And then there's just a lot of good stuff in here. So there's Clashing Tempers, Molten Gold, Call Upon the Realms is a first 5 card, I think, for one of the expensive opens because you do have at least 2, 3, possibly 4 power sides. And then it similarly has a single double down, Fate Reflection, Ice Trap, Shadow Blade. Big Fred says big flavor loss, not including a Frostfang. You're right. Epic fail. I'll have to fix that. So, what do you think, Carl? Oh, audio's not picking up again for some reason. I can't hear you on my side. Sorry, Carl. There we go.
We're good.
Popped in. Yep, we're good.
Cool. Sorry about my audio. My computer's not the best, but
That's all right.
um, I don't know if I like Shadow Guard here. Maybe I do. Do I? We got 2 illusion, and we're running a 2-drop ally that's played as a reaction. Maybe. It's really fighting with a lot of reaction space because we got double down might be fighting. Shadow Blade's fighting for the same space. Do you usually start with the Realm Walker and hunting weapons in this one as well?
I question is, did I put a first 5? I don't think I did, but yeah, I would say I probably do start the Realm Walker. Oh, here we go. 2 first. See, sometimes I actually do the work. Yeah, Realm Walker is in both of these. There's one option which does the double down, and the other option which uses Squirrel to take an alteration. Oh, there's a third. I don't know. Sometimes Ashes doesn't split these. There's a third option where you don't. You actually just go with Shadow Target, Herder, Shadow Blade, and draw into something. And there's a little bit of Pick Your Poison as the fifth. So there is one single option that does not have the Realm Walker start. But I would probably lean most of the time on a Realm Walker start with this deck, I think. Sorry, Carl's audio's out again. There we go. It's back.
I think this deck is going to have a trouble if you ever lose a Realm Walker. So I guess do you have, oh, you don't have Root Armor either. Fate Reflection might help.
Oh, so this was the list I posted. I actually did, I ran this last night or the night before in just a casual game, and I believe I did update it. So let me see. Was it Frost? Freeze it coming. Yeah, I swapped out the Wallop for a Root Armor, because that was a problem that I had, and I guess I went up to 2 double downs, and I know you hate this card, but having a refresh ability just for whatever, the red flower actually did, it was nice to have. So this is the newer, I guess, list, my version of it, but yeah, some small changes. And I took out what did I take out? I took out the Shadow Guard. So that's, sorry. Yep,
this isn't a deck I normally run. But I don't run a lot of the Realm Walker plus hunting weapons open. I run a lot of Realm Walker, but I don't run that together as much as I probably should. I should probably give them a try more. But I think this might be one of the weaker ones we've seen today so far. You don't have a lot of outside the Realm Walker. Maybe how has it been doing? I might be wrong. I'm worried about saying something's weak and being wrong on it.
No, but because honestly, it's hard to separate a deck from its plays and its matchups. I've only played this 3 times and it's gone 3-0, but that doesn't obviously make it strong. That could have just meant I had strong matchups on a given day.
I'm gonna take 1 second if you don't mind. I apologize.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's see. While Carl is taking a quick break, does anybody in the comment section have anything that they want to ask Carl deck building wise? I know we've got a couple people here. Nothing? Nobody? I hope you're all excited to know who or what deck was the fan favorite. It's fun looking. There was only, I think, 8 or 9 respondents, but it was interesting to see the rankings. Shadow, you played it 4 times and it's 3-1, but you're finding it a bit expensive. Yes. Yeah, that was I think that was part of the reason I dropped the Wallop, and I dropped the Shadow Guard, because the Shadow Guard was pressuring the illusion dice. The Wallop was part of the expense, and it is still an expensive deck, but I don't know. Sometimes that works. I gotta run it more, but maybe Carl doesn't like the deck, so who knows? Maybe it will not be one of the 3 that I run. All right, we got Carl back. Let's see if his audio is back. Nope. Oh, there we go. Yeah, pops in. I think it's maybe proximity. There you go, right up in there.
Oh, that might be it.
Oh, yeah, all right.
We good?
Yeah, well, you got closer, so I don't know. I should probably...
Oh, I'll try to move it back.
No. I just got to adjust a little bit there so you're not super big on screen. There we go. That's fine. Okay, so you think it's one of the weakest decks. Interesting. How do you analyze that? That's, I guess, a key part of when you look at a deck. Why do you think this is so weak? Because if I saw someone post this, it appeals to me. But obviously I built it, so that's hard to judge.
I just think if you lose the Realm Walker, or if they can neutralize the Realm Walker open, then I don't see how you win.
Right. Okay.
Maybe I'm off, but I think that's the entire. It's just, I guess it's a classic Realm of Serb deck, but it has less feels like it has less punch than some of the other Realm of Serb decks I've seen, and where like it keeps all of the downsides of if you lose the unit you lose, but it doesn't have like the great upside I see where it just dominates the round 1. Maybe I'm off there, but that's kind of where I'm coming from.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's interesting to look at it that way. It definitely, I mean, there's, I guess, a small option for the Swarm between, with the double down start. But yeah, you're right. That it's got a single central threat, and then you're really just hoping you can carry with the 2 spellboard units, which is also undervaluing or underutilizing Noah's 4 slots, because Frostbite is more of a finisher. So, okay, cool.
Underutilize your spellboard. But like, if we look at your allies, you have Adapt Duelist, which is an expensive removal option. I mean, it's a tech card. It's nice to have. But then you have a 0 attack one. You got some Raptors, which are always nice. But you have 2 summons and allies that aren't bringing a ton of punch. Maybe I'm off. I think it might be, since it's 3-0, but that's kind of my value. It doesn't have like the super high upside, but it still has that risk.
What if you had to change, like, say, 2 or 3 cards? Could you make this better, or is it just a flawed premise or flawed sort of idea?
Let me see. You go. Okay, so we go. I'm not sure, but I think saying flawed is extreme. I don't want to go that far, but it's not. It's just I think this is a solid deck that I could run. But I don't think it says on the level as the others. Maybe. Yeah.
Would you add another spellboard unit like Adapted on?
Because
there's a lot of nature.
So we'll go 3. Yeah, there's a lot of nature. Is double down necessary? Like, can we go? What's the time? We got time and illusion. Okay, so I see that. I hate to be like that person, but maybe we just go into, instead of nature, we could go into ceremonial, and then you have. No, I don't think that'll work. I don't know. I'll think about it, but let's go to the next one.
So this so far is the worst deck of the bunch, or your least favorite, you think?
Yeah, and I'm also feeling a little pressure to say one is bad because I'm saying all of them are good. So there's that.
That's okay. That's good. It's the worst. The Noah is the worst. All right, let's move on to the Odette list, which is, I guess, is close to saying the good stuff as possible in terms of the spell board. It's a Foggy Bear open with, or spell board with Butterfly Monk, and then you've got Hammer Knight, which feels very classic Odette, at least in these colors. Some Fire Archer for burn, Molten Gold and Final Cry as well for burn. A Beast Tamer, because I love Beast Tamer. A Blood Archer, which I think is a potential first 5 option, especially against weenie stuff. And then only a single Massive Growth, a Root Armor, mainly, I believe, for the Hammer Knight, and a lot of removal. So we've got 2 Festers, 2 Wraths, the Sword of Virtue can work obviously either way, some Veils, some Ice Traps, and a single potentially cheeky, potentially not a good idea Sleeping Widows, just based off of her 5 battlefield. But, that's the list. And this was one I played successfully for a while in one of the tournaments. But anyway.
Yeah, this looks great. It looks like a very good stuff Odette. It looks great.
What would you like? Is there anything you would change, or is there anything that sticks out like a sore thumb?
Let me see. Is there any way? No, I don't think that's even necessary. I was thinking if we could go more charm, so we could have the 3x Mind Fog for the focus, but I don't think that's really necessary whatsoever. I think you're light on charm, right? Because we have Mind Fog, and then because that's going to cost you 1 every round, and then you're going to go, maybe not. Maybe you just might not be able to play Beast Tamer if you draw into it. But if you draw into
it's kind of hard, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever want Beast Tamer here, because I guess you're just losing the Mind Fog Owl if you go
around, yeah.
That's okay. I'm not usually a big fan of like building in like ways that I make my first 5 less optimal than it could be. Because then you're playing with 6 cards round 2. Wait, right? No, you're playing with 7 cards round 2 instead of 8. Either way,
I don't.
If you draw into it,
I'm wondering. I am wondering if there was. Oh, I guess I don't. There's an open where I don't start Butterfly Monk, so I start the. Oh, and I don't start Mind Fog either. Interesting.
So you just go ally heavy then. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you stick a Root Armored Hammer Knight and then Frostback and Tamer. So if there's like a really defensive open, there's also the Archer Veil Ping sort of open. But yeah,
it's 3, 4, 5, 6. Your spell board's 6 round 1. If you want to do your spell board plus stuff, right? 3. Yeah.
And that's when I would, if I did the 3 spell board plus Blood Archer, for instance, and then flex 5, which could be Ice Trap, or you could start Sword of Virtue and just not play the Butterfly Monk, or things like that.
Find a 2-drop where you can start. Can we find a card where we could go Sword of Virtue, 3 books, and then another card, so we can have that option, right? If we see a night open and we want to have our consistency, and then have another 2 somewhere. I think that would be. Is there any way? Can we squeeze another charm in here? Because then we could go 3 books, Beast Tamer, Sword of Virtue, and that's a great open.
Yeah, I would have to reevaluate the deck list in that case, just because I know for sure the nature are a little like they're already full. That's actually a question I have.
I think the ceremonial is heavy.
Probably. It's honestly, it could be one of those lists. Sometimes I have lists that are heavy on all the colors, and I'm never really sure. Like, what do you do in that case? Do you go by the 4 or 5 dice or 4 or 5 cost per dice type of approximation? Do you do a full out analysis like Matt Bowers and Charlotte do, where you're calculating not just your first 5 options, but the average dice per round? Do you just wing
No,
it?
I just do what I'm doing right now.
Well, obviously it's working, but
So
in terms
I'm
of teaching
sorry.
people, what is that?
Well, like, um,
Like you just analyze first fives?
well, you want to look at your spell board, right? So you have a nature, and you have, well, you're gonna want obviously three nature. That's a given because you need to
Mm-hmm.
start if you want to start the three. So then you have the nature and two nature every round. So you got that, and if you want to start, and if you go with a 3x molten gold, and let's say you want to play two of them around, you're gonna want, yeah. I mean, so the nature is solid, but when I look at, if I see that I'm running 3x of a die, but I'm not using any of those dies in the spell
Spellboard?
board, then that I think that might be high, right? So what's the chances? So you have three ceremonial. You have zero ceremonial cards that have a double cost. So the double cost is really a big thing here because you're drawing five cards. So, um,
The only double cost is widows, which
gotcha.
probably could go.
If we could get rid of widows and then maybe get rid of a final cry for a sympathy pain, and then add a charm, I think we'll be at a spot where we just have a nice, like a standard open of three books, Beast Tamer and a Sword of Virtue option. Then you have your Bear Knight option, and then you have the options that you already had,
Right.
right?
Very cool.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So what overall, what do you think? Where's
no,
this ranking?
this is a solid deck.
Okay.
I don't want to take that away, but I it feels like this you're losing some potential of Sword of Virtue is what I'm worried about, right? Because Sword of Virtue is such an amazing card, but like you're giving up. Like if you want a first five Sword of Virtue, you have to give up stuff, which makes Sword of Virtue worse, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you really don't want to find a way to make your best card worse. So I
That's
get
fair.
you have the opening within that all unless you're not opening all books, that's fine. Then I'm wrong there, but that's the only thing I see. I think it's a really solid deck.
Yeah. Yeah, the Frostback plus Mind Fog, at least round 1, the fact that it costs 5 and then a Knight plus Sword of Virtue, which isn't necessarily what you want to do, but it's a good combination to at least have the option of. That's another 5 dice. So it makes a fifth card tricky unless that card is going to be something like Call Upon the Realms.
Um,
Yeah.
I really don't like first five and Call Upon the Realms.
No, exactly. It's not a great option. I'm just saying, you're already at 5 plus 5. So a 2 drop, yeah, if we could find something. But okay. So where is this? Is this higher or lower? Is it higher?
Oh, this is higher.
Okay.
I mean, we could. I think we could adjust this easily into something super strong. And
Okay.
I really I think Beast Tamer is you're getting almost Knight value for two dice there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, I think it's a strong deck.
All right.
Sorry, didn't have much advice on the dice ideas, but that's what I usually do. Is I look at the spell board, how much that's costing you during the round. I look at the double costers. Is that straining my dice pool, having the double costers, and then I kind of feel out the rest. Think of like what's my worst case hand scenario. I mean, I kind of stress this a bit. What I really try to avoid doing is having a dead cards in round two. Like I really don't want dead cards in round two. So I think of a dice pool that would make sure I don't have dead cards round two.
What
Um,
what do you do after you pick your where you have your core idea? Because you're starting with the first 5. So that, is 5 cards. And then what are your considerations for the remaining 25 cards? Do you start immediately thinking of matchups, or do you think of synergies with the first 5s? Do you think of flexes first? Do you think a little bit of about everything? Like, how do you fill in the rest of it?
so I think of synergies and how you're gonna win first. Matchups and flexes come out later. Unless the flex is really obvious, like um, Yeah, there's some flexes where like, hey, I have a 1 die unit. I can have a golden veil, right? There, like that that's an obvious, like, unless it slots in really obviously, I throw it in. But I want it to make sure I have a win con and it synergizes with the rest of the deck, and then I think of matchups. So particularly what I do is I look at the damage output and how I can win the board. For a lot of my decks, like, am I either putting a lot of damage out? Am I winning the board? Right? Because if I'm doing neither of those, I'm not doing well. So, for example, if I have like a ready spell of, like, let's say I want, I don't know, Salamander, um, actually, yeah. So, like, let's say I want Salamanders. I need let's have a gates thrown open, right?
Okay.
And it does really well. But I don't really. But then the rest of my game plan, I'm having like cheap. I have like cheap summons, right? I'm stuck with 3 1 die summons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to fill out your hand that works with that. Like, are those 1 day summons drawing you cards, right? Is it like a Cole Wishing Wing opening where you're drawing cards, you're getting value off that? Is that how you're going to be spending your dice? Or do you need to supplement it with some knights, right? Because you have cheap openings. And it could be reversed, right? So, like, say my spell board is really expensive, then you fill out your deck with stuff that would supplement that. So, like, if I have a really expensive spell board, thinking like a 4 book Aerodel or something, then you're filling it out with like a Chanting Violinist, maybe Raptors, maybe extra Golden Veils, right? Some more utility things that maybe you throw in some, vanishes or redirects for the matchup because your spell board is like carrying you home, right? So it depends on what the first 5 does. If the first 5 is like really gonna be what's gonna carry me, then I give supplement it. If the first 5 is really just a scary open, if it's just to open that works, and I need to find a way to have some more threats, that's kind of the way I try to build it out. Supplement the first 5 the best I can.
That's interesting because each, I think, of those things apply a little bit differently to the next 3 decks on the list, because they have, or at least one of them does have, a very cheap open gates style, and then another one of them is pure spell board that tries to carry the game, and another one supplements that with knights. So let's look at, technically I didn't build this list, I have modified it a bit, but this is one of my favorite lists. It's actually the list I wish, or not wish, I was deciding on between the collection, this list and the Brennan list that I brought. I wish I brought this instead. This is the Cactus Beater 5000. It's a Cole list. It's one of the few Cole lists I play, and it's very strong. It's 3 Fighting Spirits, 3 Indiglow Creepers, a Tidal Crab, 3 Wishing Ring. So it's very spellboard heavy. It has a few allies, I think, just for that extra swarm bodies. Huntmaster, 3 Herders, 2 Standard Bearers, an Explosive Growth, because why not when you're running creepers and other things that like tokens, like Wishing Wing. Accelerates 3 of 300 blades basically. Tidal Shift is a first 5 flex, and then 2 fates, 2 flashes, and 2 standstills. So this one is really looking to just like get big punches. Obviously Cole can really help clear the board, and then there's the standstills, that type of thing, and eventually you have inevitability built in with the Fighting Spirits.
It's fantastic.
It's a fantastic deck. It makes sense because it wasn't one that I fully built. So yeah, Killer is very good at building decks, but I love this deck. I think it's probably one of my better decks that I should play more.
I can't think of a thing I would change. So I might add an
Ocean's Gift. Yeah, I like that. What would you switch out for that? Oh, did I lose you again?
Not.
A lot. Oh, there we go. I lost your video feed, but I think I have your audio.
Apparently my video's not doing super well.
That's okay. Bandwidth problems, probably on my end.
So you start your 4 readies and then Huntmaster, right?
Yeah, I think there's 2 opens here. Did I? Yeah, so Huntmaster with the 4 books, or you do title shift and with the 4 books, and you can title, I think, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for Wishing Wing. I guess you get a second wing down.
Is this pre-rata by chance to Creeper?
This is it. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see the original list. I'll have to go into my decks to. It might have been. Actually, you know what? Maybe not. I know you. Let's see, Cactus Beater. 4 months ago. I don't remember when the errata was.
I don't know.
Yeah, 4 months ago was the original list. So I have modified it from what it originally was. What did I change? I don't really know. It's hard to.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
This is a great list.
It's a great list. Yeah. Oceans. Okay, so you said Oceans. What?
I'm not even sure you need that. I think you're fine without it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it's a good list.
I guess. Yeah, you're fine without it. It'll be nice with the Wishing Wing. Wait, you're throwing out what, 2 tokens around?
Yeah.
No, maybe when you get the Creeper focus, you're good.
I don't think this was post. Sorry, I don't think it was pre-errata. I think the idea was that with Cole, if you draw into the focus, then you're golden because that token is good anywhere, and then the other book could just be slashed. So I think that was the idea, but I don't know if I can fix your video, but yeah.
Sorry, man. I don't mean to be.
No worries.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What's the rating on it?
I would give it an A. I'm trying to figure out. You know what we need is Seeds of Aggression. That's what we need. That would be big because you could use it. Because self clear is a thing here. Because if they're not killing your creepers, you need Seeds. Yeah, Seeds of Aggression is a for sure add. I might even add it as a 2 or 3x.
Would you replace Flash Strike or Fate Reflection or?
I might replace. I might cut down a Fate Reflection, but maybe a Fate Reflection. Flash Strike's not a bad cut. Standard Bear is not a bad cut to 1x either.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Accelerate as a 3. That's not terrible. I like Accelerate in Cole.
It's really good in Cole. I mean, you get the dice fixing. You get the.
You got Unburden twice too, and then make your thorns.
Ooh, I don't even know if I've ever thought about doing that. That's really cool. Yeah.
I think we have to find room for Seeds of Aggression though.
Okay.
Because I'm having trouble figuring out how if they're not. Do you ever slash your own creeper? Is that a thing you do?
I have. I think I think I have done it, especially if I know for sure round 1 that I'm just going to have the unit advantage, and it comes down to say my opponent's out of dice and he decided not to kill the creeper, then I just go for it.
I got you.
Yeah, but it's an option. It's not necessarily what you want to do, but it's
and I feel like you would have to. It looks like they have to do the killing of the creepers for you, or you have to wait into the next round.
So right? Seeds is what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry, I'm saying that a lot, but yeah, Seeds is definitely an ad. Other than that, it looks fantastic. I would give it an A, but yeah, I would definitely add Seeds.
All right. Last 2 decks. We're nearly there. Hope decks. So this was one that I thought was a really cool idea, and I played it against you, and you were running that Fallen Creeper Koji deck, and then I don't think I ever played this deck again. But I like the idea. I like not only the theme and the color spread, but I thought it would be fairly strong. It's got spin down elements. It's got for Shadow, who's still watching, thankfully. I don't know if anyone else is. We've got Dream Fracture, False Demon, Lightbringer, Shadow Spirit, and then 3 Fire Archers, 2 Hollows, 2 Light Swordsmen, 2 Shadow Guards, a Stormwind Sniper, 2 Fester, a Gates, 2 Spectral Assassin, which is one of my new favorite cards in addition to Stormwind, 3 Particle Shields just for Charlotte, 2 Shadow Strikes, a Sleeping Widows, and the Void Pulse. What are your thoughts?
Looks very solid. So it's kind of like a really big hybrid for between like spin down, burn, a little bit of swing kind of thing. You got a little bit of everything
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, it definitely has a little bit of everything. I guess it's the
It's really
burn
cool to
and the
see.
spin down help, right?
Right, yeah, 100%. And you got Shadow Strike is a card I think needs to see more play.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Fully agreed.
it's really good, and like when people just want to do attacking units and don't attack with them all, it's a solid card. I should play it more myself. Yeah, I like it. I'm trying to figure out what I would change.
Shadow Strike is a card I think that is even more relevant in the current meta now that not only is Bear back, but there are I guess in the last 2 releases there are more valuable 3 lifers with the likes of Old Salt, obviously, Tidal Crab, and well, Tidal Crab sort of fell out of favor, but just being able to put 3 damage on a knight if you've already done 1 damage or similar, or Phoenix Attendant if they take a wound and then you Shadow Strike them because the Phoenix Attendant is almost never going to swing.
Yeah, I don't see anything I don't like about this list.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out if we could fit in Shepherd or Lost Souls, but I don't think we can.
I think you have the ceremonial to recur anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Um.
Nothing to change. Perfect
Yeah.
list. There you go. We finally did it.
Fantastic.
And then the last deck is Wish Upon a Shooting Star. So this is another Hope deck. This is one I ran for AshCon. I think it was one of the first Hope lists I really put some thought into, and this was at the peak of Value Town. So it is now technically an outdated list. I don't know if it works as well, but it's got Lightbringer, Salamander Monk, Seafoam Snapper, Tidal Crab, 3 Wishing Wings. So this is again a very much depending on the spell board. And then what I did, which was what you said, is if I have a lot of sort of smaller spell board units, I put in some beef with Sonic Swordsman, some Crystal Archers, a Swifty, I think. I don't even remember what that's for. And then the action spells are kind of interesting. Era's End I put as a one of to, I believe at the time, counter creepers. Generosity is to potentially counter the Noah matchup. I don't remember. A Recollect. I don't think you're high on this card, but when the spell board is a lot of what you're going for, I have it there, mainly for the wing. 3 Tidal Shifts, 2 Shadows, Wave Crash, Fate Reflection, Flash Strike. So, yeah, thoughts?
Outdated. I think you mentioned it right because we got the Era's End, and we don't see Era's End needing as a flex anymore. I'm not sure if I might just go. I think you could just go Mirror Sphere in here, but I don't want to put Mirror Sphere in everything. Um,
I mean, you did for a while. I know. Uh, it's one of my favorite units to add to, but yeah, I don't know that it fits in here.
I'm
Well,
having. I don't know how I evaluate Salamander and Snapper anymore.
mm,
I don't know where that evaluation is for me. So because like, don't you want them to have to kill both, right? Because then you're giving them is the fade, right? No, or the fleeting for free. Because if they just ignore it round one, and your idea is to like snap the Sally, and then they ignore the Salamander and go for your units, then you got it fading for free, and then you did the work for them. So I'm not sure. That's why I said it's outdated. Not to be rude, but I'm not sure how that combo works anymore, and I haven't done it. So maybe you have, but um,
no, I played this list once versus uh Fred, I guess recently. It was more of an exhaustion list. Up until that point, it had only had one loss, which was against Underrug Swept on an Archie Smash Open. So it suffered against the big stuff. But Snapper is still good, I think, with the Wishing Wing. You're right. I do feel it's a little. I don't know. It would need to see more play in today's meta. It is basic. I haven't played it in a while. It was a very strong list. I'm not so sure about it in today's world.
like with the Wishing Wing, I think we're just trying to draw more Wishing Wing books, right?
Um,
Like at
yeah,
least round one, that is.
yeah. Oops.
Um, I guess I'm lower on Snapper now because of the lack of the synergy with Salamander Monk.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then
It's a tough one.
you really like your best. I guess you could duplicate a Salamander Monk and have some defense, but I think your best duplicate right now is either a Snapper that might destroy one unit you don't want it to, or a Lightbringer to get a 4/6 extra attack. But because if you duplicate Wishing Wing, it's max one attack, so you don't have like a lot of like big duplicate plays here.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. And with 5 spellboard also it can like the issue is that it can clog itself. And Snapper's really
so
the only
how many are we starting here? So we got 1, 2, and then 3, 5. Is it 6? Is that a 6 die? My
for the open.
3, 4, 5 is 7, 8 plus if you have yeah. Is it you just running the books? Is that the open? And then maybe a flex of either Crystal Orchard or Sonic.
Yeah, I honestly let's see if I'm not sure anymore. I think there's different opens. You can flex, Lightbringer if you want, or Sally, I guess in today's world.
You
For
don't really like it yourself either, do you?
I loved the list originally. I don't know. It felt like at
In
the
your
time.
description it says, "I hate this deck. I hate that I built it. That I played it."
I hate that I built it because it was for AshCon whenever they did the what was it, the dice, I think, or maybe it was for No Such Methods alt arts, whatever
Yeah,
it was.
people
It
were.
was the
Yeah,
price, the prize was on the board, and Hope was everywhere. Value Town was the combo to run, and I was just like, screw this, like I want that prize. So I ran it, and I felt bad doing it because it was like Value Town was just a little ridiculous, and even more so out of Hope.
Crypt
So
Guardian in here?
I don't know. I was trying to bring up my original deck to see. I guess if I published it, the write up was there, but 5 book, dupe on anything, use the card draw, yeah, or you can divine buff. That was one of them, and
No,
then
I think it's actually not a bad open, right? Because if you have 4 books a night, that's pretty good open.
yeah, I guess
And
I
then you got
did at one
duplicate
point
for an
have
extra unit.
I had ceremonial at one point for Crypt Guardian, and I switched it to just be a little bit cleaner and just kept
Yeah,
the
I think that's
Sonics.
a smart idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it's actually a bad open. I don't think we need. No, it's a cool deck. Maybe I was
Yeah.
really too hard on it. Four books, a dupe target, and a sonic. That's a strong open.
Yeah.
You're just no, and I guess you got. Are you doing wait crab S3 wishing wing? Yeah, so you could really buff up that wishing wing with the crab. It's 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's a strong open.
Shout your video by the way never came back, so it's just I don't know if I should be showing a sad
Still
face Carl
vertical.
where it captured at the moment. I don't know if I can fix that, but Shadowfire was wondering, is this something in this day and age that if you put it in another Phoenixborn, it works, or is it just because it's outdated? Some of the cards, like it's sort of flawed concept from the get go now.
Um,
But you,
I wish we had Snapper and Sally. I don't see him working as much as more. No, I think I was too hard on it. The crab and wishing wing get it going. Um, I would like us to have another thing we want to draw into,
hmm,
right? Because we're getting the crab and wishing wing going, but then I don't know if we're getting the value off wishing wing that we want to get. But maybe that's just maybe getting a 3 or 2 attack wishing wing is just fine. Like you don't need to make use of all the draws all the time, and then round one it just gives you. I mean, round two on it gives you more options.
yeah, okay. Well, that covers the 10 decks. So now I'm interested. We've got your thoughts. We haven't done any editing. We're at an hour 42. So if we want to stop by 2 hours, which I kind of do, let's pick the three and or pick two, and then I'll reveal the fan favorite. Or maybe I should reveal the fan favorite first in case they overlap. It's up to you.
You can pick 2 or 3.
Okay.
Either whatever you want. I'm
Nice.
just
Okay. Go for three,
okay.
and
So,
we'll pick the top two in case there's no overlap.
so my 3 are guards be damned, no soup for you, and the cactus beater.
Okay, no soup free. Interesting. So even though it wasn't your top or the strongest pick, you just like it so much that you want to play the Echo deck.
And
Okay.
I think it could maybe I think it could be really strong though.
Okay.
And it's different, so I want to see how it could perform. I think it could do some good stuff.
Is that the order?
Or
What would be
just
the top?
enhance. So I think the best deck would probably be the cactus beater. Throwing him some seeds of aggression I think it would be really strong.
Okay.
Garsby Dam is right there as well. And I think actually the third best might be enhance, or just the antiquities. But I like to no soup for you, so I'm just gonna throw
Okay.
that out there.
All right. Let's take a look. Drum roll. The fan favorite was the Noah deck, actually. Tonight's
Oh man,
forecast, yeah, is freeze. And then Tristan enhance took second spot, with the rest kind of tying for third, between the Odette Antiquities, the Cactus Beater, and the two Hope decks. Nobody apparently really went for the Heralds, which is interesting. And the one that's your favorite or second favorite was not picked at all, which I think is interesting. And the one that you thought was the worst is or one of the worst is the fan favorite.
yeah, okay. That's I think people are sick of Herald, so that's probably that might be the thing. People are probably
I
sick
th-
of Reapers too.
well, yeah, but I think if we pick the cactus, so if the cactus you think is the strongest, which I do like, and it, Cole operates a little bit differently than your other decks, and this also has long, like the big punch type of thing. The guards be damned is very different. Again, this is more obviously, I think, to your style, the control type of options. It's got the transfusion in here. If we add in the Noah deck, I think that's a fairly good mix. Like I honestly wouldn't be disappointed with all of them.
It's just not my particular. it's just not what I do as often as the others.
Yeah.
I don't usually do that combo super often, so I might have been too low on it.
Right. Well, but I think that's also it's good
But
variety,
Reflection
like to.
Water just wrecks you.
That is the card that wrecks. Yeah, and we advised on one of our, I don't remember which episode of the podcast, that Reflections is the card to solve the meta. It counters a lot these days. More people should be playing it. Okay, let's see. You basically said the Cactus Beater you thought was perfect, but you want Seeds of Aggression in here. So let's do that. Do I have to go? This was my version of the list. Can I? No. I gotta go through my decks first. Right? Let's see if I can't edit. Go here. So we're gonna edit that deck first and throw in some seeds. So go to Cole. Here we go. And I personally like making snapshots before I modify it. So this will be interesting too to later share. This is pre-call.
Hopefully I don't make it worse.
Well, at least we have the snapshot. So
we have the history.
We can take out, you said, 1 Fate Reflection and 1 Standard Bearer?
Yeah, I think that's a fair start.
Okay.
And how do you like 3X Fighting Spirit, by the way? I see it often. Are you a fan?
I'm mixed on it because
usually I run 1X, but I see 3X a lot.
Outside of Cole, it's a little tougher. It depends. Like the considerations I have are you starting it? Because if you're not starting it, then you definitely want to draw it as soon as possible. And so that's why I do like 3X. It also does add a little bit more, not inevitability, but it adds more punch and flexibility in when you choose to punch with it. You can trade a little bit nicer. But in Cole, it's just, again, it's just at the very worst case, it's slash fodder, which is fine. So there's not really a downside to it other than, I guess, the 2 slots that you're potentially giving up. But there's a lot of fuel in this deck for the Fighting Spirit. So far it's worked.
I'm with you.
So 2 seeds popped in. And that's it. That's the change.
Does that affect the dice spread in any significant way?
I think
probably
it
right?
Might. Yeah. I think we have to drop a time.
Do we go 4-4-2?
I think so, yeah.
Mm.
The only question is, does that work with the first 5? So
the first 5 will be fine.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm thinking
2,
well,
3.
You can't do the title shift play.
Oh, okay. That would be the change. So it makes the first 5 a little static, I guess, in that case.
So we could start with we could keep the dice spread, see if it works.
Yeah. It really comes down to whether you're drawing into it and even if you need it, right? So, okay. I'll leave that at that. There we go. There's 1. So now the Guards Be Damned list.
I feel like it's really cliche if I come in suggesting a Guilt Link and a Creeper deck.
Yeah. We're definitely not doing that for this list. All right.
I'm saying one is a Creeper deck and the other one's a Guilt Link deck.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So snapshot. So there we go. Pre-Carl. What would you change? So this was the list that you said you'd want to narrow the focus a bit by eliminating the nature die?
Yeah, I think so. And then instead of Nature's Wrath, you could throw in a couple Anchornauts. That's what I would do.
Okay. Well, I need to
really
eliminate. Herder can stay. Everything else. Oh, why don't? Sometimes I hate if you delete or remove too many things, it pops them back in. Okay. So I eliminated the hammer knight, root
Maybe losing a
armor,
lib armor. Yeah.
and which I mean we'll see, right? You want
Do
me to
you
go up to
usually
3?
do you usually start the rune armor?
I I don't, like I said, I lost to no such method on Fallen twice, and I gave up on this deck, which is
Yep.
which is probably not the right decision given that it was the first deck I had that back to back nights I faced you and Brian on completely different lists, and you both liked it, and it won, and so yeah, I probably gave up on this too quickly. I don't remember. What do you want to go up to 3 sympathy, 3 divine, or go up to 6 ceremonial? What are the 4 cards I'm adding in here?
That's kind of what we're thinking, right? Do you want to do? We need 4 cards.
4 cards, yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of 3 consume soul either. But if you want to keep 3, that's fine.
No, I'm good to go to 2.
I think I would go to 2. I like getting a hand of 2 of them is not great.
Yeah, that has happened to me before.
You don't really want that, and then you don't really have the draw to mitigate that. So I usually do 2. My current Herald is actually running 1, but I usually do 2. So then we have a few cards to play around with. I'm thinking, do you want to do the 3x Lioness play, because that's an option.
Yeah.
Throwing in a couple Anchornauts is also what I don't know if you put those in yet, but that's what I would do.
Okay, and then, so Anchornaut should be right. Let's see. So just 2. I put Wing Linus to 3, and I bumped up the Divine then to 3. So do you want 2 Anchornauts and then we have 1 slot, or do you want to go to 3 Anchornauts?
And then you're at 3 Divine?
Yeah, 3 Divine, 2 Sympathy, and 5 Ceremonial.
Let's go with a 3rd Shepherd.
Okay. Interesting. Why a 3rd Shepherd when you have so much Ceremonial and you already have 2 Shepherds in there?
4. I don't like using Ceremonial to get my... I use 3 Shepherd a lot, so maybe that's wrong. I'm thinking this through. So 3 Divine with 3 Shepherd might be off.
Right now, there's also, like, there's the 3 Linus book, which would be pressed, but
yeah, that's going to be
2 Sonics and 3 Shepherds and an Angelic.
We are heavy on it, and then that's the only Divine, right? An Angelic Rescue.
Yeah, that's outside of the units. That's the only one.
Yeah, I guess
Shadowfire is wondering about a 4th Divine.
Yeah, I think a 4. So the thing with a 4th Divine, can we is our Ceremonial hard pressed? Let's see. So we got Ritualist, Rising Horde, Old Salt, Fire Archer, Chant, Final Cry. Can we go a 3rd? There's a 3rd Sympathy, and then maybe move some Final Cry into Sympathy Pain, and then have a extra Herder or even a River Scald. Would that be too much or not? I'm thinking here.
Okay.
3 Sympathy might press that as well.
Would you go down to 1 Final Cry or just cut them all for Sympathy Pains?
You can go down to 1 Final Cry, because then you could do the 4 life swing where you either Sympathy Pain and have a final. I don't think you have much self sack though.
There's not a lot of self sack. So the other cards, if we're up to...
Oh, well, you have Guilt Link, so you got that.
Well, yeah.
So you could trigger your own Final Cry. So you could get a Sympathy Pain on an opponent's turn, trigger your Final Cry.
So you want to do 2 and 2, like 2 Final Cry, 2 Sympathy?
I'm trying to. Sorry, I'm like in my head here. I'm trying to see if does 3 Sympathy work or is that too? Is that too many with you? What cards you have? So we
There's
have
1 Herder and 2 Sonics. And the Guilt Link, but the Guilt Link's the first 5. So
and you got two
sorry, 2 Master Vampires, yeah.
The Guilt Link's the first 5, yeah. So,
That's 5 costs on 3 dice. There's lots of room.
yeah. So that's kind of heavy. How many cards we got? 1 slot.
We got 1, but I could cut Final Cry down to 2.
I really have been liking River Scald with Herald, and I think if we could fit that in when we're already in Sympathy, that would be pretty big. And I'm not sure if it would fit in this deck, but that's an option. Because like you have the Master Vampire and Sonic Swords, you can just throw at bears, but then you can also like you can mark and then up the damage with whatever. Maybe I'm being like too greedy here. I'm not sure if that's gonna work.
Well, Scald is chained for a reason because it's good. So what if we add a Scald and a Sympathy Pain?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So that bumps us up to 1. 2,
Actually,
3,
let's go down on Fire Archer. Throw 2 Scalds in there.
Okay.
Because then, if you're going down on Ceremonial, you can move down a Fire Archer. Then you got your 2 Scalds and a Sympathy Pain, and I think you'd be at a nice spread. And even if our dice spread's a little off, we're gonna be okay for the first couple games because of Wing Linus, and we have quite a few basic syncs. And then we can kind of adjust the spread from there. But we got a little bit of a burn finish if we need to. And like another thing is Fire Archer is really not is another card you really don't want multiples around too. The burn, like you're not really rushing round 1, right? And the burn round 2 is not going to be significant. So if you get 2 Fire Archers round 2, you're not, unless you get another big unit, you're not in an ideal start.
Right. Okay.
Do you want a Phoenix Attendant? Because right now you only have the 3 old salts that give yourself a wound. I'm not sure if you want the Phoenix Attendant. You're not running. I'm not sure if that's something you want.
That's a question for the audience. I don't know. Shadowfire or Dell or Fred, if he's still watching. I'm not sure. I mean, it is a good unit no matter what. So I guess instead of the second Scald, probably.
We're okay here. I think we're okay.
We're okay?
Yeah, right, I think I should do it.
Okay.
I'm actually really interested in how this one's going to do. It's pretty cool.
Me too.
So we got a Ritualist Chant, Guilt Link, and Wing Lioness. So that's what, 2, 4, 5. So you got 5 on your first. Then you got a Sonic and an Old Salt, right?
Most likely, yeah. You could also do. You could really push the dice, and you could do Rising Horde.
Rising Horde would be a good Guilt Link one. So you could do. Can we do that opening? We got right. You can't do a Rising Horde and an Old Salt.
No, you do Rising Horde instead of Old Salt. So you do Rising Horde, the Ritualist Chant, Sonic, and Linus.
And you're hoping you're getting a wound on a counter or something, so you could use chance a transformation on the counter.
Well, if I would probably want to use the chant token to heal off from the Sonic in that case,
right? And hope
because the Guilt Link can take care of the Rising Horde
for sure. No, I'm saying like you're hoping they put the wound on for you, right?
Oh yeah. Ideally, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you get the value like 2 for 1 out of the Guilt Link.
Which ideally they would if you have Linus stalking and then you can mark and attack with the Sonic.
Yeah. Okay. And the fan favorite and Carl's worst pick of the day, the Noah list. Let's take a look at this. So this is a sort of a mix of Realm of the Absurd with bear and frog. I'm going to snapshot it. All right. So the main concern was, well, at the time in the one I published, but not the one I updated, you didn't like Shadow Guard, which is fine. That one's gone. I swapped out Wallop for Root Armor, and I put in the card you hate the most, which is Red Flower, and bumped up Double Down to 2. So this is the current my variation of it.
You're gonna want something on exhaust. I think Red Flower is big here.
Okay.
I wish I could give great advice. I haven't played the Realm Walker Hunting Weapons Open a ton, so this is gonna be something I'm gonna explore myself when we do this.
Is it undervaluing? Is it too light on the spell board? Given that it's basically just the 2, like until you draw into the Frostbites, it's just the 2 units.
I'm gonna take a look at the first 5 again. So we got your first 5. One is Bear, Realm Walker. What we got? You got Double Down. Oh, you're really hoping they take out your Frostfall then.
Yeah. That's a little bit riskier, I guess. Kind of now I'm feeling like, what if we do have what are the other options we could put in here as a third book to start? Turtle Guard is one of them. Adaptodon is another. False Demon could work.
Huh? Sorry, I think I lost you first.
Yeah, I lost you too. I was just saying False Demon, Adaptodon, Turtle Guard. Those are options for a third book.
Yeah, I was thinking False Demon. But yeah, those are all options. What would our books be? So we got Bear, Frog, maybe False Demon. That's what 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you go Realm Walker and Hunting Weapons for an explosive first 5.
Okay, so what would you cut then here to fit in the False Demon? Would you cut Call Upon the Realms?
Yeah, because I don't think you're really trying to go long anyways, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair cut.
Okay, so that's the only change?
Yeah, let's start with that. I'm going to play this for myself and see if I'm wrong about it, because I think I might be. Right. I don't really do that open, so hopefully I think I might be wrong on this one.
I will, after this, because it's midnight, we'll end soon. I'm going to republish them tomorrow, probably, and that way you'll have the updated, the lists, and so that anyone else who wants to test and play along can do that. Yeah, I think, so we got through a lot of deck talk. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of things like common mistakes that you see people make, or things that people should consider more often that they don't? Oh, Carl, sorry. I think I lost you again. This is probably good since the internet seems to not be working for either of us. Hello, Carl.
Oh, hi.
Hey, there we go. You're back.
All right. So are you talking about in deck building itself or just in general?
Yeah, deck, because the plan is that now that we have the 3 decks picked, obviously as much as possible, I'm going to try and play those games, record them, so that eventually we can use that for feedback, for you to observe us, to sort of scrub through them, look at, what are mistakes or decision points that I wasn't sure about, or you noticed that I made mistakes in, and why. But for now, just deck building wise, is there anything that you think people tend to undervalue or make mistakes or should think about more often?
So nothing's coming to mind. I think we talked a lot about my thought process, my valuable points in it, or hopefully that was valuable talk for you and anyone else. Nothing immediately is coming to mind of anything else. So I will think about it. So if we talk about anything else, I'll think about it. I didn't prep a ton for this show, so
I do apologize if I'm just rambling. Um, I'm looking forward to the games though. That'll be a ton of fun.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And I don't. I'm not one of those like, subscribe, comment people. But in terms of commenting, if you do have questions, obviously, if you're on the Discord, easy enough to just ask you or whatever. But in terms of specific content, for this, if you do have questions, put them in the comments, and then hopefully we can address them or use them in the next episode to work through. Oh, Dell
Sure.
said attendant is a cool unit. No idea what's best though. Yeah. Sometimes I get in my own head at like there's so many good options, or nothing really screams for the last card or two, so I just put something in and then test it out. But we'll see what happens with that list. So we've got the Cactus Beater, Guards Be Damned, and tonight's forecast, A Freeze is Coming, which is a Mr. Freeze Arnold Schwarzenegger reference from the Bad Batman movie.
Very much looking forward to it. I want to try the decks myself, and this should be a ton of fun. Thanks for setting this up and doing this. This was it's always fun to talk Ashes.
Yeah, I love it, and this hopefully will be really cool moving forward. So, unless there's anything from anybody else, this has been a good long one, and this is Jankyard. So we gotta say, frog up, wolf down, and if you're not janky, you're stanky. Have a lovely night, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks, Carl.